When there is a need for short term help at a community, in a department, or you are looking for a temp to hire for an open position, you should follow these steps in order to obtain a temporary worker. Approval from your supervisor must be obtained before an order for a temporary worker is submitted. Be sure to discuss the wage that will be paid to the temporary worker, as this will be needed for their placement. The next step is to complete the temporary worker request form and then simply email it to the recruiting team at recruiting@selden.com. The temporary worker request form can be found in the Standard Operating Procedures number 960. Let's walk through the best practices in completing the temporary worker request form. Here you can see that I've started a form for a make ready technician. We are just going to be getting some extra help at the end of the month so we can get our move ins moved in on time. So the first question is the temporary worker filling an open position? In other words, is there a job ad posted for this particular position? So for this example, we'll say no. Again, we're just going to go ahead and get some extra hands on deck so we can make sure that we get those make readies turned in time. The length of time that the temp will be needed, and we're anticipating about 2 to 3 weeks. The position that the temp worker will fill. Now, again, we don't have an open position for this role. We're just looking for extra help. But the job that this worker is going to be doing is going to be that of a make ready technician. Next, we'll want the description of the duties that will be performed by the temporary worker. Again, for this example, we'll just state make readies for move ins. But if this was an accountant and we were bringing someone in for a 30-day accounting project, we might want to be a little more specific describing the duties that would be required of this person. Next, we'll want to capture the property name and the property number, or again, if this was an accountant or potentially a marketing intern, we would want to go ahead and list out that particular department. For this example, we'll say Ocean View Apartments, property number 700. We would then list out the property or the department phone number, and then we'll provide either the corporate or the property full address. Please be sure to include the city, state, and the zip code when you're including the address. Next, we'll have the scheduled hours that temporary worker will be working. We do suggest that your temporary worker be on site when you have support staff with them. So, for this example, this particular maintenance team, they work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. So, we'll have the temp at work during that same time. Next, let's talk about the maximum hourly rate to be paid. We'll want you to go ahead and fill in the dollar amount per hour that the temporary worker will be paid. However, you can see that the clerical average is about $16 an hour, the labor average is about $18 an hour, but these are not the bill rates. The bill rate would be the hourly rate with an additional 1.6 to 2% of that hourly rate being added in, and that would be your total bill rate. That will be the dollar amount that you will also see on your financial. Next, we'll want to capture the supervisor's name that the temporary worker will be reporting to. We'll also need their address, their email address, as the staffing agency will be emailing this person weekly with the timesheet. And so the direct supervisor will need to approve those timesheets each week. The allocation for billing, for this example, it would be the property name, the property number, and then the percentage of the allocation. Now, in this example, we've just got a make ready technician working at Ocean View Apartments. However, if there was a secondary or maybe even a third property, we would want to make sure that we get the property number, the property name, and the total allocations that are going to total 100%. Or if this was a department, we would go ahead and see those allocations here as well. The next step would be to open your Outlook email and then simply click the submit button on the form. This will send a new email that was generated. Now, if a new email doesn't appear and you're unable to see this being attached to that email, you can simply save this document and then just email it to recruiting@selden.com. One final note: all communications with staffing agencies are conducted through HR and recruiting, so please do not contact a staffing agency directly. The recruitment, initial placement, any replacements, and terminations of temporary workers must be conducted through HR. So please do not reprimand or fire any temporary workers without contacting the HR department. All issues regarding temp workers should be brought to the attention of HR immediately. A couple of do's and don'ts to ensure that you and your temporary worker are working together successfully. Do be respectful. Although the temporary worker is employed through the staffing agency, be welcoming and friendly to the temporary worker and be sure to show them around the community, office, and the shop so they feel comfortable during their work time. Do approve weekly timesheets. The staffing agency will email the direct supervisor a copy of the temporary worker's timesheet each week. Please review all timesheets for accuracy and then submit your approval in a timely manner. Do not issue any keys, badges, or business cards to the temporary workers. Temporary workers are employed by the staffing agencies, so we should never discipline, discuss pay, or negotiate an employment opportunity with a temporary worker either. Maintenance temporary workers should not enter occupied units. They should only work grounds and unoccupied units unless you have been notified by the recruiting team that they have passed a Selden background check. Temporary workers should never complete the work that requires any type of OSHA training or certifications to perform. They should also not be allowed to drive any company vehicle, including golf carts.